Welcome to New Money. I'm Bryan. This evening we're once again focusing on healthcare. One of the reasons that I brought my healthcare topic forward is because at this time of the year one should be re-looking at your overall plan to assess whether you're contributing to the correct plan with your medical aid. Medical aid is the one item in your expense budget that is going to keep increasing. The difficulty is that the increases for pensioners who have a greater need statistically as they get older, their earnings have dried up and they are now living on pensions and investment income that they have built up over the year to cover all living expenses. Joining this evening is Kevin Aaron. He's Principal Officer of MedSheet Medical Scheme. Kevin, lovely to have you on the show.
Hi, Bryan.
Kevin, the big problem now for everyone is affordability. And I'm seeing an enormous amount of people talking to me. They're saying to me, we're going to downgrade. And I always say one thing to them. If you're going to downgrade, you need to understand fully what are you giving up? Because you're not just saving 3 or 4 or 5,000 rand a month. You're saving it and you're giving up something. I mean, the whole question about affordability.
Yeah, and this is what keeps us in the game awake at night, just about every night, is what are we going to do about reducing the cost of care to make medical schemes more affordable? Because for the vast majority of people, being on a medical aid is almost becoming unaffordable to a lot of people. So I think what we have to do is we have to unpack a little bit why is it becoming unaffordable, you know? And I think, first of all, I'd say the basic principles of a medical scheme work around cross-subsidization. So the theory is that, you know, the young and healthy, as they enter the job market, they join a medical scheme. Because they're young and healthy, they tend to claim very little. And effectively, they actually cross-subsidize older people who have chronic disease, lifestyle diseases, who tend to go into hospital a lot more. That's the theory. And then as these young and healthy people move along their journey of life, they themselves become older, maybe start developing some lifestyle diseases, their claims increase, but again, they're being replaced by further young and healthy. That's the theory, a younger generation. So that's the theory, and in theory, that works. Also, you know, as you may well know...
But is it working?
No, it's not, because...
Okay, sorry. We can yeah.
It's not. So, you know, the other thing is in terms of the Medical Schemes Act, you know, everybody on a particular medical plan pays the same contribution, irrespective of whether you are young, fit, or whether you are diseased and unhealthy. That's just one of the nuances of the Medical Schemes Act. But what is actually happening at the moment is that because of the sluggish economy, because of no growth in the economy, because of the affordability of medical schemes, what's happening is that young and healthy people are electing not to join medical schemes. Why? One of the reasons is because you can go out and you can get yourself a health insurance plan that gives you primary care cover and maybe a little bit of accidental trauma cover for hospital, and you can pay 300 Rand a month, where to join a medical scheme, you know, you're going to be starting at 1,000 Rand a month. So what you're actually finding, which is the challenge that all medical schemes are finding, is that by not getting this influx of young and healthy people in, your scheme starts to age. It obviously ages by 1 year every year. And the clinical profile of your scheme starts to get worse. As the clinical profile gets worse, it becomes like a compounding effect. You have to now budget in your contributions to cover the increase in the claims. And that creates affordability issues. The other issue is, which I must say, is medical schemes have to deal with prescribed minimum benefits. And if you talk to any healthcare actuary, they will tell you that they have to price in between 800 and 900 Rand per month just to cover the cost of PMBs. Because if there is an accident and you're hospitalized and it's regarded as a PMB, a medical scheme has to pay in full no matter what the treating surgeon or specialist charges, and that can run into hundreds and thousands of rands, if not millions. So I think, you know, the playing fields are not level, Bryan, And that's been a big gripe of the medical scheme industry, in the sense that, you know, you've got these health insurance products which are booming. They're exploding and they're attracting young and healthy people. But on the medical scheme side, everybody is struggling to attract young and healthy. What we're also finding is that people are actually leaving medical schemes, not because they want to, but because of the affordability issue. The contributions bounce, and then the medical scheme has to terminate them, suspend them first and terminate them. So it's almost like a spiral effect. So the current medical scheme industry is chasing after whatever young and healthy people you can get, but a lot of them are electing not to join a medical scheme because they feel it's unaffordable. The one thing I would say, and I wanted to also just talk a little bit about the bar downs, is that a medical scheme, in my opinion, is not there necessarily just to cover things like going to the GP, maybe going to a specialist, having a specialist consultation. Medical schemes are really there for catastrophes. I mean, we had at MedShield, the highest claim we had last year was 4.8 million rand for one individual. Now, if you work out how long it would have taken him to pay that 4.8 million on his current contributions, it was nearly 199 years. Okay, and that's the one thing that people forget about medical schemes, is that from a hospitalization side, you're typically covered in full. And you can't discount the possibility that you have a traumatic event, you end up in hospital, the bill comes to 750,000, a million, million and a half. Who's going to pay that? Those health insurance policies typically have a limit, whereas medical schemes would pay it. From the buy down effect, you're correct as well. I mean, I think what we're also seeing is that people are not wanting to go off medical schemes because the alternative might be having to go to the state. So they're trying to stay on what a medical scheme for as long as possible, and one of the options is buying down. And I think, as you correctly said, you know, you have to be very careful when you look at buying down to make sure that, you know, you're not compromising on what you may actually need. And again, you know, my recommendation is that you talk to a reputable financial advisor or broker, do a needs analysis, look at your income requirements, and see what you can afford relative to what the different options give you.
You've raised a few things, and it leads me to another question that I was going to deal with later. When you talk about this unaffordability, are you not giving fuel and energy to the implementation of NHR?
Well, one of the things that the medical scheme industry has been fighting for many, many years now is low-cost benefit options. You know,
and that's from the board, the council, to give this permission.
Correct.
And they haven't given it.
They haven't given it.
Why?
I don't know. One can only speculate. You know, we, for example, have put in a low-cost benefit option as part of our product offering for the last 2 years, and it's been rejected by the Council for Medical Schemes, as has many other schemes. There's not one scheme in the market that's had a low-cost benefit option approved. And, you know, we are, just to give an example, we are able to offer good primary care products with some specialist cover and a little bit of hospital cover if you want, for between 250 Rand and 700 Rand a month. And, you know, if I just look at our 2024 product, which has just been approved by the council, there's absolutely no mention of the low-cost benefit option submission that we made. So, you know...
is this because of the overhang of NHI?
It may well be. It may well be. Or it might be that the council basically is waiting on the health insurance products to lapse, and then they just won't renew them, the exemption. But it's a major problem, because we're put at a significant disadvantage. And if we were able to offer what we call LCBOs, we feel that we would then be able to compete with the health insurance products, which first of all don't have to comply with P&B regulations. They don't have to have a minimum solvency requirement of 25%, so we could compete. and then we could attract young and healthy people in and move them along the continuum into a proper medical scheme offering as their income gets more.
Kevin, you raised the question of cross-subsidization, and you raised the question of every year you get 1 year older, and if you're not bringing the youngsters on, what is going to happen? Because cross-subsidization, by the way, in healthcare is one thing. I don't know if you know, cross-subsidization started in the 17th century with Lloyd's coffee shop, where those sailors who went out with goods, the many insured the few, and the unfortunate one, that's how Lloyd's actually started. So that concept of cross-subsidization has been around. But now, if you're losing this cross-subsidization, and let me ask you this question. I understood that medical aids, and maybe you can answer it together, I understood that medical aids had to have a solvency margin. I now understand that every scheme offered, every plan offered by medical aids, they themselves have to have a solvency margin. Is that right or wrong? And is that why different schemes have gone up at different rates?
Bryan, effectively overall, I mean, the scheme as a whole has to have a solvency rate of at least 25%. You know, if you get below that, the council puts you on a watch list and you need to submit a plan. But effectively, each option has to be self-sustaining. So it's more from if you think of an income statement perspective, the theory is that each option should actually not be running at a deficit. That's really why you find if some options do really badly because they have a high claims ratio in a particular year, you'll find that those options go up higher than other options. You know.
Okay, so it's based on claims ratio to get them, because there's some options within schemes that have gone up 12, 14. I understand even one particular option has gone up 18%.
Correct, and that particular scheme, if you look at the last 2 years, had some of the lowest contribution increases in the industry. We're probably with a view to try attract the young and healthy into that scheme, but it actually it never works. It actually catches up.
Kevin, we're going to put a pin there for a moment. We've got to take an ad break. We've got to absolutely make sure that our program is funded. So please, will you stay tuned? We'll be back shortly.